still doesn't work, as you can see. Waiting on parts to come in, but once they come in, be good to go. But what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about something that you guys have asked me so much over the past couple of weeks, and with the blob eye coming onto the channel and all the problems that it's had, it's a very valid question to ask. So today we're going to be talking about it. Is it worth it to buy a used WRX or STI, whether it's low mileage, high mileage, any year, any generation, any car? And this can be applied outside of only Subaru also. I mean, this can apply to Nissan, Mazda, any tuner car out there that you might be wanting to modify. These general principles can apply to any of them at all. So typically, whenever you're going to be looking around for an older car, there's always going to be issues with them. Like, this car has been the perfect example of a almost worst case scenario for what you can buy from a used car lot, especially if you're going to like a third-party car lot, kind of like I did, where you sign an affidavit that states, hey, you're buying the car as is, no warranty, they're not liable for anything. A lot of us buy our cars that way. Some people buy them at auction, some people buy them brand new. If you're buying brand new, then I mean, you don't really have much to worry about, but specifically with these older ones, you're going to have problems. Now, it's not just Subarus that people don't fully maintain and don't keep up with on the maintenance. Maybe they modify them incorrectly, maybe they install the wrong parts on there, maybe they install parts they don't put a tune at all, maybe they do motor work and you have no idea it's got motor work done. There's a lot of different parameters that can go into what is actually in the car when you're going to look at it. A lot of you guys ask me, hey, what should I look for when going to buy a used WRX or STI? My advice to you guys is always try to find one as close to stock as possible, if not stock. At least with the motor work, the exhaust work, all of that kind of stuff. Like, yes, you might be doing those modifications later on, but this is a perfect example. When I bought the blob eye, I had no idea that there were cams in it, full valve train, all of this other stuff done to the motor, and you're not going to know unless you actually pull it out of the car and you take it apart. Now, I'm not saying that every used WRX STI or just JDM car, European car, whatever car you might be going to buy has motor work done to it, but this is a perfect example of you do not know what you're getting yourself into until you get the motor out of the car and you actually start getting into it a little bit more. Yes, you might be able to find some deals on some certain cars out there that might be significantly cheaper, but there also might be a reason that they're significantly cheaper. It's not always the title status of the car, it's not always the mileage that affects the price. Sometimes it is the condition and the overall health of the motor itself and everything that goes into it. Now, if you are going to be buying one that is modified, which is not always a bad thing, something that I do suggest that you guys 100% get, and if you do not get it, do not buy the car, is get the car with a full build list. Every single modification done to, at minimum, the motor, so you know what's going on there. Get the tune information for whoever tuned it, however much power it's making. Get all of these, just get all of this information. It's going to save you so many headaches later on, and you're not going to have to deal with stuff like I'm dealing with now. Or if you know somebody who might be selling one that you want specifically, maybe it's a built one, maybe it's making a certain amount of horsepower that you're looking for, at least you know the owner, so that way you can get information from them. Now, with some of these cars like this one behind me, yes, I can try to track down the previous owners all I want, but that doesn't mean that they have to tell me what they did with the cars. With this car, I did find the very first owner, the person who bought it brand new back in 2005. I also found the second owner who bought it from the original owner, and then the third owner is kind of a mystery right now, with me being the fourth owner. After talking to the second owner of the car, he gave me a lot of information about it, but none of this motor work was actually done to the car. So you get in this predicament where you have absolutely no idea what's going on with the car. You just maybe spent $15,000 to $20,000 on one of these cars, and you have no idea the status of everything that's going on with it. That's when things start to get very expensive, as you guys have seen here. You'll start to run into small little issues here and there, maybe with valve lash, like in my example. Maybe you're gonna have one with low compression on a cylinder and you didn't do a compression test like you were supposed to when you bought the car. Like me, I didn't do it. I should have, but I didn't. Now, I'm not telling you guys to completely steer clear from these cars and not buy them. There are plenty of very good examples of very good used WRXs and STIs to buy out on the market. Now, with that, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna wanna try to find one that's as close to stock as possible. But you also don't wanna be misled whenever you're going to look at them. What a lot of people do, and what I think happened to this car behind me, is that it was at some point heavily modified. The prior owner wanted to get some of his money back in modification, so he parted out the car, took the tune off the car, because you have to unmarry the access port if you're going to use it on a different car, and by unmarrying that access port off of that ECU, you lose the tune information and it reverts back to a stock tune. Now, in the case of this car, there were still a couple aftermarket parts on it, essentially cams, turbo inlet, a couple other ones on the car, downpipe, whole bunch of other stuff. Now, if you're running a stock tune with a whole bunch of parts on a car that you pulled the tune off of, it's not going to run happy. It can misfire, it can blow up. There's a lot of negative things that can happen with that, and then you get stuck with the repair bill. It's not always that you're going to buy someone else's project car, you're mainly buying their problems, which nobody wants to buy someone else's problems because then just nobody enjoys it, nobody has fun. But in the proper cases where you can find a good WRX or STI, there's a lot of good examples out on the market like we talked about. But I'm not saying all of this stuff just to make you guys steer clear of the WRX or the STI or any other tuner platforms in general, because what happened to me happens to a small percentage of people. For the most part, when you go out and you buy a car, it goes through like a pre-purchase inspection. The mechanics actually take their time to go through the engine, make sure everything is straightened out and good to go. Now, if you are buying a used one and you want a little bit more reassurance, you can get a third-party warranty program through a lot of dealers. You're gonna end up paying X amount of money per month. You're typically prorating it throughout the life of your loan, or you're gonna have it throughout that period or interval for whatever the conditions or the terms of that warranty program is set up for. Might give you a little bit more reassurance just in case anything negative happens to that, but keep in mind, if you are getting a warranty through it, you're gonna be limited on what you can do with modifications. So go into the purchase with what you know you want out of the car. If you know you're gonna be modifying the car, then I wouldn't waste the time with the warranty. If you just wanna drive it around for a while, enjoy it as is, definitely consider getting that warranty program. But we covered the vast majority of the important information. Now I do want to touch on some other things for those who are looking at buying a WRX or an STI used. What should you look out for? On a lot of the older WRXs, STIs, Forester XTs, Legacies, Outbacks, whatever you might be going to look for, check under the rear arches for rust. That's going to be the rear quarter panel area where that back wheel sits. They do like to rust out, especially on the older ones. And if you're more up north where they put a lot of salt on the roads and the car may have not been undercoated or protected properly, you're going to have a lot of rust built up back there. I do want to touch on this one also because you guys asked this, since we are talking about buying used WRXs and STIs, is don't get caught up on either you're solely looking for an STI or you're solely looking for a WRX. If this is your first WRX or STI, honestly, get whatever one you can afford. You're gonna be going down similar modification paths with either platform, and if you're new to this platform, then honestly, either one's going to be a good learning experience, but don't get hung up on whether you want like an STI or a WRX. As long as they're EJ based, they're going to be pretty similar. If you opt for like a 2015, then obviously the motor setup is gonna be a little bit different because you're gonna be running with an FA20 instead of an EJ series, but that has its own modification path. I have a video dedicated to that one. But if you are going out and you do decide to purchase a used WRX or STI, I do highly suggest you do these things first. You don't have to go to the extent of pulling the motor out of the car like I did, but I do highly suggest you go through there and you fix any problems that that thing might have. Any of the smaller problems, whether it's oil leaks, exhaust leaks, intake leaks, fuel leaks, anything like that, it's just going to get worse over time and it's going to make other problems more prevalent. So when you get the car, don't go to the extent of pulling the motor out unless you really want to, but go through there with a fine-tooth comb, fix broken, old, crusty vacuum lines, fix old, broken O-rings, any of that stuff. Get the car 100% mechanically sound again before you decide to modify it. If you go out and you start just trying to modify an engine that's been abused, it's leaking oil, it has all of these problems, it'll probably blow up on you. And it's not, I mean, it's kind of the car's fault, but it's not entirely the car's fault because it's a little bit your fault because you didn't decide to go through there and do the preventative maintenance that you should have been doing. But first thing you should always do when you buy one of these cars used, go through it, swap fluids, anything that's replaceable, whether it's a wear item or not, go in there and swap it. Spark plugs, oil, transmission, rear differential, all of the wear items, get them out of the car, replace them with fresh new ones, see how the car runs, see if it's enjoying everything, see if it's enjoying life, take it out to dinner after you do so, go fill up on a good tank of gas. But I do think that used WRXs and STIs are a very good value when you can find them that aren't totally abused. Now don't be deceived by looks, because you can get one that looks incredibly clean like this one did and it just have a ton of motor problems, and that's just when things start to get very hairy. So just to recoup and go over all of this one more time, if you are planning on buying one, pre-purchase inspection, compression test, leak down test. If everything passes, awesome. If you can, get the car up on a lift to look under it for oil leaks, coolant leaks, brake fluid leaks, anything that might be leaking, just so you know what you might be getting yourself into a little bit more. Also look for like damaged suspension arms, control arms, anything like that, rust on the frame rails, rust in that rear quarter panel. Now I know not everyone has access to be able to go underneath the car and look at it. If that's the case, then you can easily spot a lot of this stuff from above the car, with the exception of like rust, bent control arms, damaged control arms, or anything underneath of the car. Now with EJ specifically, if you are checking it out and you don't have access to be able to get it up onto a lift to look at it, you can just stand up in the engine bay, look down, and you can pretty much see anywhere that's going to be leaking. The major areas that will probably be leaking oil, if it is an older one, is going to be valve covers, both passenger and driver's side. Down here on the bottom of the valve cover, over time, either the gasket likes to give out, or some people put gasket maker down there, and if the gasket maker starts to wear over time, it's going to start leaking oil. It's a very easy fix if you do have to do that one. Secondly, lower thermostat housing does like to leak at times because it is a two-piece bolted to the water pump, so sometimes if it is worn out or the gasket on the thermostat starts to wear out, you can get a little bit of coolant seeping out of there. Now aside from that, you should be able to see everything else relatively easily. Get any service records you can. Check out the car, make sure everything's in good working order. But do I think that buying a used WRX or an STI is a good idea? I think it's a great idea. You just need to go through the proper steps when buying one to make sure you're not getting a shit box like I did. It's only kind of a shit box, but you get what I'm saying. But I hope this answered some of your guys' questions. If you do have any more questions about buying a used WRX or an STI, please feel free to drop it down below in the comments. I'll swing through every comment like I always do. And if I missed anything that you feel is pertinent in this video that I did not touch on, please add it below to help others out also, because we are a community, we do all of this together, and we want to see everyone succeed. So that is all I got for you guys on this one. I do think that buying a used WRX or an STI is a good purchase. Just go through the proper steps to make sure you're getting a good one. So with that, that's all I got for you guys. If you guys want to support the channel, anything like that, swing over to the website, www.smedia.net. Link is down below. Grab yourself a Drive hoodie. They're perfect for the snowy, cold winter weather. And if you like the video, you know what to do. Go ahead, hit that like button and turn it blue like the seats in this Subaru, or gray like the other one, or black like this one. I don't know. Apparently that button turns a different color for absolutely everyone. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit your boy up. I'll put it in one of these corners. Not quite sure which one yet, but with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, homies.